with her and the kids, and we all get along very well. It's just wonderful that you can have grandparents that are so like-minded in their thinking, and so we all kind of want the same things for those grandchildren, you know. And but we were worn out. Like just we had them over Friday night, and you know, and my wife we met in phys ed. And so she's very active, and she's always saying, well, let's take them biking, let's take them back. Go on, can't take anymore, like I can't go again. It's just go, 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 go. But it's wonderful, and Alvin was a wonderful man, and he had just a great spirit about him. And every time we talked, it was always so genuine. I heard him preach a couple of times in Winnipeg, and it just, he was just a wonderful, wonderful man. Now, it just so happens that my wife and I decided to go to an Andrew Wommack conference. Healing is Here. How many know Andrew Wommack at all? Heard the name, Andrew Wommack? Andrew's got an unbelievably large ministry. He's been doing it for years and years and years. And we went down to Colorado. We drove there, 2 days of driving, 4 days of conference, 2 days of driving back, listening to tapes. So I got a lot of stuff that I gathered to those. You know, sometimes, honestly, you got to take some time aside for yourself and get immersed in the Word. Immersed, deep dive, people that are way over your head, people that think beyond what you can imagine. You got to let them pull you up, you know. And so Richard Roberts was there, and they had some wonderful ministers, just wonderful. Now, Andrew Wommack started in a very humble way. And if you ever read his books or his story, you know, he was all over the map for a while, but he currently owns over $150 million in assets. So he's got a huge piece of property down there in Colorado, and he's got ministries all over the world. Is he attached to it? Well, as a matter of fact, he's just turning 75, and he announced he's turning the ownership of everything that he owns over to one of the staff members, and a person that he's known since she was 10 or 11 years old. And she later was a minister in Russia for 16 years, and then came back to be with Andrew Wommack, and he has a big Bible school. That's his big thing. He's got over 200,000 hours of tapes, literature, books, free. And the two books that are really interesting are Body, Soul, and Spirit. If you ever want to understand how that all works, Andrew Wommack does a great job of talking about that. And he's also got another book, You Already Got It. You already got it. He is not a big guy on asking God to heal you, because he said God already healed you. He's not going to die again. Jesus is not going to go to the cross again. It's already done. It's a complete, finished. It is finished. It's done. Now we just have to figure out how we hold on to it. It's different trying to get it, to get your healing, as opposed to hold on to the healing that's already promised. You know, if I get Brett $5 and I said, okay, Brett, you hold on to that, I'm going to come get it. Well, he's very hard pressed for me to take his $5. Now, if I had the $5 and I told him to come and get it, we'll have a little battle, right? So the idea is you already have it. It's an interesting concept. It takes a while to quite understand it, that Jesus already paid that price. He died on the cross. And the word sozo, salvation, means salvation and healing. It's a complete package. You don't get half of it. You don't get the bacon without the eggs. You know, it's a complete package. It's just interesting to get it. So I'm going to wander a little bit. I hope you don't mind. But anyway, I used to sell radio advertising in Winnipeg, and one of my clients who really became a good friend of mine, and he became ill. And he became ill to the point that he started, using a cane and then a walker, and then they started giving him injections, and he was quite ill. And the doctor even had told him, don't get ready for any Christmas presents this year, because you might not be getting any, right? So I went and talked to him, and he was a guy that when he grew up, his parents had sent him off to Saskatchewan to a Catholic school because he was such a troublemaker, right? Told him to go away. So anyway, he comes back and he's become a very, very successful businessman. So I was up in his office one day and I said, Jim, I just got to tell you this. I hope you just can understand what I'm going to say next. But I said, do you believe that Jesus died for your sins? He said, yes. I said, well, I got good news for you. Healing is in that package. Jesus healed you when he saved you. He looked at me and goes, I'm healed. I said, you're healed. That's it. That's how it works. You're healed. He goes, I'm healed. I said, you're healed. And he's still alive today. And he's built a new store and the business that he's in. That was 4 years ago. He was not supposed to make it to Christmas. Now, it's been some rough days, as you were talking about before. There's some rough days in there. There's some days when it's not going that well. But one thing I've learned about business owners is that they're doing things that Christians should be doing. They have great imagination. They have great ideas about what's going to come. They plow through the idea that they have no money. They don't care. They did the principles of God work whether you're Christian or not Christian. You know that God's principles of rain falls on the righteous and the unrighteous, right? They did a study of 1,500 wealthiest people in the United States. You know what one thing they all did? They all gave away money. They all realized that giving away money is a way of getting money. They have no problem giving it away because they're anticipating the yield that's coming. They have no problem putting seed in the ground. They know that seed's coming back. Even in Winnipeg, a lot of the things that go on in Winnipeg are donations from people who aren't Christian at all. So before I run away with myself so much here, as I said, I spent 6 or 8 days listening to stuff. So anyway, here's what I want to do. And Andrew Womack became, well, I'll tell you that in a minute, I guess. I've got these things numbered here. So when we were there, and, I so appreciated this morning just hearing that music, I waited with 1,000 people or 8 people, it doesn't really matter. The music is just unbelievable songs that they've written about God. That, I don't know if you've ever seen the Marines doing that song, The Days of Elijah. Have you ever seen that? Oh my gosh, there's a YouTube video out. A room full of Marines standing up, singing Elijah, doing it with rides in a horse. They got all the signs things they do. It's so moving. These are fighting guys, tough, rugged men. And they're up doing these are the days of Elijah, riding in a horse, coming in a cloud, It's unreal. If you get a chance to look at it on YouTube, it's just so moving. These guys are all in. That's one thing you can say about them. They're all in. And when we were down there, we had some wonderful testimonies as we heard from people. It was a healing conference. That was the idea. But Judy and I went, basically, I just wanted to get immersed in this stuff. Just, like I said, listen to people who've been down the road farther, done more interesting things. So we had this Jeremiah Claus. And he was a drug guy to the point where he was so into drugs and alcohol that he went up to his drug dealer and said, I need those drugs. And the guy said, give me the money. He said, I don't have any money. He said, I need those drugs. And the guy pulled out a gun. And he said, go away. He goes, no, I want that drugs or shoot me. I don't care. Shoot me. He said, it doesn't matter. So the guy didn't shoot him, gave him the drugs. And then later he discovered that he had MS. And he was actually in a couple of recovery centers and stuff, and he started to get cleaned up. And he heard about Andrew Womack Bible School, and he decided he wanted to go. And he was talking to this lady, and she says, what are you going to do, Jeremiah, with your life? I'm going to go to Bible school. I'm going to go to Andrew Womack's Charis Bible School. Well, how much is that? It's going to be $7,000 to go for 3 years. No problem. Go to the check. Here, go. So we heard him speak. He said, that first year, I was not well. I was not well. I realized anything came out of my mouth, it would be bad. It just wasn't in tune with what everybody else is thinking and talking. So I didn't say anything. People thought I was a shy guy. I am not shy. I'm just smart. He said, I just didn't want to hear myself saying this stuff because I knew it wouldn't be good or healthy for anybody else. So his 3rd year, he graduates. He's got his own little radio program now. He's got a ministry and stuff, and he's doing he was one of the most exciting guys that we heard speak, and his testimony is just lit up, you know. He was so far down, and he's so high up now, but the same personality, you know, vibrant, fun-loving guy. And this other woman, Raquel Hudson, a very moving story. Her and her husband just got married, and then next thing you know, they found out that she's got these physical ailments and stuff, and her body starts deteriorating. She had lupus, and she had kidney failure, and it's just not going well. And she was becoming so drawn out and things like that. Her husband actually put on the mirrors just scripture, so she couldn't see herself. And again, they just got married and stuff. Anyway, it came down to one day, they said, you're going to need a heart transplant. And that was it. They said, no, we're not doing that. You know, and it turned around for them, and she got healed, and now they have a ministry in Texas, and they're doing really, really well together. She looks wonderful. She just completely recovered from everything. And one other guy, Barry Bennett, and if you have a chance, if you know Andrew Womack at all, Barry Bennett is one of the key figures there. He's a teacher, and he was a missionary in Chile for 12 years. And then he started a Spanish Bible school in Dallas, and then he went on to Charis Bible School for 15 years. And he had just written a book on healing. And that year, he got really feeling bad and wasn't doing well. And he went to see the doctor. The doctor said, you know, you're a man of order, right? He goes, yeah, well, you need to get your affairs in order, because you're not going to make it through the week. Here's a guy who just wrote a book on healing. He knows everything about healing, or he thought he did. And he said, man, I had to read my own book and find out what do I do now? You know, like where do I, you know what? It's like I used to play professional football in Winnipeg, if you didn't know. And so there's a great story about this winning team in the NFL. And one day, you know, they'd won a couple of championships and stuff. And one day they had a terrible game. And they went in the locker room, and the coach says, man, that's it. We're starting back at the beginning. This is a football. And the guy in the back said, slow down, coach, you're going too fast. So it was, but Barry Bennett had to go back and read his own book and say, okay, did I get it? Did I really understand it? Am I really getting this? Anyway, he was alive and well. He's been preaching for 5 years now, and everything's fine. He's doing great. And he's one of the most sought-after teachers there. He has great compassion. He was one of the best speakers that we heard when we were there. So I'm going to give you, so there's 4 main points. I'm not going to give you all 4, thank Jesus. Anyway, there's 4 points that I got out of the conference about healing, life, Christianity, whatever you want to, how you package it all together. And think of it as a baseball diamond. On first base, vision. Number 1 thing you need, vision. Second base, identity. You have to know who you are and whose you are. Who you are and what are they robbing you today of in society? Who you are. You know, they're mixing it all up. Who are you, right? So who you are. On the third base, authority. You know, Jesus didn't say that all power has been given to me. He said all authority. You know, authority is more than power. Because sometimes you can say, well, look, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to be powerful. Yeah, you can lift the weights and every stuff. And guess what? You get outside and you get in your big Ram truck and you're going down the street and some skinny little guy that's a police officer goes, stop. And he stops. Because he has authority. Authority is way better than power. So, authority. And the 4th thing was rest. It is finished. Stop working so hard. It's finished. It's done already for you. And like I said, I was a professional football player. I went to the game on Friday. Took Maverick to his first football game. That's bad. He was so lit up. What's that guy doing? What's that? He asked me 100 questions. Oh, nothing but questions. Anyway, he asked me all these questions and stuff. But the very last set of downs, they go on to win. Well, I just want to tell you, we're like that. The very set of last downs, we already have won. I just want to let you know, I know you maybe want to wait and see what happens. We win, just so you know, so you can be happy about that. We did win. So that whole panorama of vision, identity, authority, and rest is inside an arena or a ballpark. And that ballpark is called your world view. How you see the world. Now, a worldview is not the way the world is. The worldview is the way you see the world, right? So I could have this worldview, or I could have this worldview. Well, the world looks totally different now. It's a little shady out there. It's a little darker than I thought it was. Does the Bible not say, I was lost and now I'm found, I was blind, now I see? What changed? The world? No. How you see the world. How you see the world is your worldview. And if these other principles that I'm going to talk to you about, I'm just going to talk about one today, but the principles that I talk to you about are not exclusive just to Christians, but they won't get you the result. And if your worldview is other than God, it doesn't matter, because in the end it's going to bump into something. But if your idea is the fact that God said, Abraham, two things. You're going to be blessed and you're going to be a blessing. And that has not changed, right? The two things that he promised Abraham are the two things that we still fight about today. Land and money. Land and family. Land and family. He said, I'm going to give you land. They're still fighting over that piece of property, by the way. They're still fighting over that little sliver of land. Do you know that Israel has never been defeated by its border enemies? Only by world powers. Assyria, Babylon, Greece, Rome. The big guys have run through there, Egypt. And because they're on that little bridge, they're stuck between the ocean, Mediterranean Sea, and the desert. That's what they own. They own that little piece of land. And anybody who was going to attack anybody else ran over them. Assyria ran over them, Babylon ran over them, Greece ran over them, Rome ran over them, Egypt ran over them. And did God care? No. He said, Abraham, you know what? God is so amazing. So after the flood, right, wipe out everybody. He tells Noah, go out, multiply, fill the earth, spread around. What did they do? They got together and built the Tower of Babel. He said, okay, just a second. I don't think you got me. Spread out, multiply, fill the earth. Babylon. That's what it is. The first tower, Babylon, and the major city later, Babylon, has been a nemesis the whole time, still is. So what does God do? He busts them all out, sends them all out in all their different languages. How many languages? 70 different countries. Go, right? He says, okay, let's get serious now. We're going to start this again. I need a guy who's going to start a family and own a piece of land, and I'm going to give it to him. So who am I going to pick? I know. I'll take Abraham. He's a wandering nomad who's too old to have kids. That's who I'll pick. I'll pick that guy. You're going, God, listen, why don't you pick somebody else? I like him. He's wandering around. He's got no home. He's got no kids. He's my guy. Abraham, leave where you are. Come down. We're going to start a family. And they still have that land today. It's amazing. I told the kids when they were young, I had one of those big globes. I said, you see this little country here on the globe? The minute that's no longer there, we're all going to be in trouble. I said, but as long as they're there, we're okay, right? They go up and down. It's not pretty. History hasn't been great. You know the great thing about the Bible is? The Bible is one of those rare books that tells the story of a family that tells you all the bad stuff about the family. Remember Uncle George? He was a little weird. You know, that's the way Israel is. Remember that guy that we had as a king? He's a little off. You know, he didn't quite do what he was supposed to. He didn't live according to David. He went on his own. He did all that stuff. He's in here. They tell you all the defeats, all the things that went wrong. It's so real, this book. It's amazing. Whoops. Stay there. Yeah, anyway, So changing your worldview is changing everything. Changing your worldview. You see, what happened to me is I knew nothing about God. Nothing really. I was 30 years old. I played 5 years of professional football on my own. 5 years. Went to a conference. And at this conference down in Florida, a guy got up and gave a testimony. So do you know what a testimony is? A testimony says, this was my worldview, I met Jesus, and now this is my worldview. That's all it is. And that's why you should always share your testimony. Because you can say to him, hey, I understand where you're coming from. I had that same point of view. I understand what you're saying. I sure did. I was on drugs and alcohol and stuff. And people say, oh, I drink and I do this and that. Yeah, I know. I had that worldview. And then I met Jesus. And so I met Jesus. This guy said, why don't you give your life to Christ? And this little voice inside me said, why not try that? You've tried everything else. I said, oh, yeah. So I got up. Jeannie came with me, gave my life to Jesus. I was so excited. I got on the plane. I couldn't wait to get back. So then I did one of these great moves when you first become a Christian. I went right to see my general manager and my coach. I said, I've got such great news. Apparently I didn't. I had such great news for my life. And he said, this is what he said, oh, because we're thinking of trading you. And I said, I don't really care. If you want to play against me rather than with me, fine by me. Okay, we'll have you out to training camp. So I go out to training camp. So at training camp, they have what they call a depth chart. So on the board, who's going to be the first set of linebackers, who's the second set of linebackers, the third set of linebackers. And I've been there 5 years. I should have been on the first set. I was on the last set. They put my name at the bottom. They told me I was one step away from going out the door. So I'm praying, this new revelation of actually praying. So I'm praying, I said, God, what will I do? And you won't believe what he told me. He said, you go help everybody. I said, no, God, is there anybody else up there? Listen, if I help everybody, then they're going to take my job. He said, no, you help everybody so they'll get a job after they leave. What? He said, they're not going to be here, but I want you to help them. Okay, that was a different approach. So I started helping everybody, all the other players. I started helping because I knew everything was going on. Started helping them all these different things. And at the end of that training camp, I was voted as a captain. And at the end of the year, I was given an award as a player who contributed the most. Well, what changed? My worldview. It was no longer me fighting to hold on to something. It was me giving everything away and finding out that it just came back. So that worldview is really critical to have that worldview of who God is. And and you think about people whose worldviews changed. How about Paul on the road to Damascus? How about a change in a worldview, right? 1 minute you're trying to kill Jesus, and then the next minute you're his number one guy, right? How about Moses trying to do it on his own to free the Hebrews? And then God in the burning bush says, hey, I'm going to send you this time. Wow, that's a different worldview, right? But look what happens when you have that worldview, when you see that going on. Well, my son-in-law, Ryan, my other son-in-law, and Ryan and Perry are really good friends. So we happened to be, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now. Well, anyway, in the past, so Ryan and Jennifer, my other daughter, got married. And like that story I told you, they found out that Ryan, right after they got married, he needed an operation because he broke his neck. $50,000. Had to go to Germany. So he went to Germany, got the operation, and helped, and they replaced some vertebrae. We were trying to tell him, because he's Christian and stuff, but he's Christian, but he doesn't have the full meal package yet, you know, the whole, like the healing and all that other stuff. So we're trying to tell him Womac's going to be in Orlando for a conference, come down. So Jennifer said, yeah, we're going. So they fly down. So we're at a 4-day conference. Wandering around somewhere, and she ran over, you got to pray for my son-in-law. So she prayed for Ryan. Not that, you know, anything special about Andrew, but anyway, this was just school, was advertising, you know, the whole Bible school thing. And I was thinking, you know what, Ryan, this is what you should do. You should go to Bible school online for a couple of years. And I mentioned it to him. On the way back to where we were staying, we were all together. We stopped at a restaurant. And he looks out the window, and he's got tears coming down his eyes. I said, Ryan, are you all right? He said, this is the first time I've been pain-free in 8 years. I have no pain in my neck at all. Now, he could run, he plays pickleball, and he was a totally athletic guy. He played for the Bisons and the Rifles, you know, and so he was a totally athletic guy. So these are the things that once you get a worldview, what's going to happen? Then this is the only one step I'll mention today, is image. The image. Barry Bennett, if you get Barry Bennett, Healing Is Here conference, he did it, he's going to do it way better than I. So what he did is, the doctor's talking to him and saying, Barry, get your affairs in order, you have 2 days to live. Something like that. And the voice underneath him, have you ever had that happen? Somebody's talking to you and God's saying something underneath your back? I've had that happen to me. I'm going, who's that? This voice, like when I sang to the coach, you know, he says, we're going to trade you, and all of a sudden I say, that's great. Who says that's great? Somebody's going to be traded. That's supposed to be bad news. Anyway, so he's talking, and he's talking to him, and the voice back says, you shall live and not die. The doctor says you're going to die in 2 days. The voice says, Barry, you're going to live and not die. So Barry says, that was the image I had to get in my head. Listen, that's the image I had to get into my head. Then I had to treat that image like a seed, like you said earlier. That's a seed. I want my ground to be fertile. I'm going to plant that seed. A corn seed's going in, a corn crop's coming out, right? The seed produces after its own coming. So he got a hold of the image. Now here's the battle. Protect the image. Protect the image with your words, your thoughts, your actions, because that seed is precious. And that's what he did. He protected that image. You get the image and you treat it like a seed. That's what you're praying for. God, you need healing. God, let me see myself healed. Let me see it that way. So then the next thing that happened is he was watching television, and because he was teaching previously at a Bible school, and he saw some teacher on the screen. And the first thing he said is, that's going to be me. I'm going back there and I'm going to be a teacher. He saw himself doing that. Then he went online and bought a vacation. If I was healed, I'd go on a vacation. So he went online and bought a vacation. So he just started acting. Now, it took a year for this to transpire until he finally got everything. Here's a guy that wrote a book on healing. But he still had to work through the process. He had to get the image and protect the image. So if you get a chance to listen to his tape, it's very good. Barry Bennett, Healing Is Here. He's a wonderful man. He's a wonderful teacher. He's a very, very humble guy. So I didn't want to talk about that, but I didn't want to talk about protect the image. So protect the image. Our daughter is in grade 3, and the teacher, like my oldest daughter, has a little bit of dyslexia. So she has trouble reading, some words are backwards and stuff. And so the teacher, especially math, she had trouble in math and stuff, so the teacher did not write a good report. And so they're driving home, and Jeannie's got the report card, and my daughter says, what did they say? What's the report card say? What did you say? Yeah. She said, what did you say about it? Oh, yeah. She said, well, how's my report card? Jeannie says, you know what it says? You have a wonderful character. You have a gentle and kind spirit. Didn't say anything about the marks or whatever, right? So we decided that woman is not going to teach our daughter again. So we moved to a different school, right? Our daughter just graduated with her master's degree in mathematics from Waterloo University online. Because we weren't going to let that lady's image change our daughter's image, right? We protected that image. Well, Albert Einstein, when he was a child, he went home one day and he said, Mom, the teacher gave me this note and only you're supposed to read it. So she opened it up and he said, what does it say? It says, Dear Mrs. Einstein, your son is so brilliant. We do not have the teachers or the time to teach him. You'll have to teach him at home. He goes, wow. Okay. Years later, he was going through all that stuff, found this letter, opened it up, and it said, "Dear Mrs. Einstein, your son has a learning disability. We do not have the teachers to handle it. You'll have to teach him at home." She protected the image. She protected the image. That's how much you need to protect the image in your mind of what you think should happen or what is going to happen. I don't know. How am I doing for time? Am I running out or where am I? Okay, I just got to give you a couple of seconds here. Here's a guy who's going to change. Here's a guy who's going to change your worldview, and his name's John. And this is such a brilliant book. Oh my gosh. This is written by a genius, some kind of ninja or something, because there's so much in this book that is so symbolic. And he says to you, this was his first sign. How many signs did he end up showing? 7. 7 signs. And then as Jesus, the last few days, 7 days, right? It's all symbolic stuff. Right? He's talking about the woman at the well, right? The Samaritan woman. So Jesus talking to a Samaritan, talking to a woman. It's all bad news, right? He's not supposed to talk to him. Don't you know we're not supposed to talk to you? No. The significant is how many times in the Old Testament is a man and Rebecca. That's where Jacob found Rachel. That's where Moses found Zipporah at a well. And this is what John's saying. She said, "I do not have a husband." That's right. I'm going to marry you. I'm marrying to you now. Did you not know he's brilliant? He told me everything about myself. Because if there's a well, there's a man and there's a woman, there's something going on. There's a union of some kind. The symbolicness, the symbols in John are off the chart. Are just amazing stuff. But here's the great thing about it. He tells you that. This is what he tells you. Let's say John 20. John 20 and verse 30. Jesus performed many other signs. So in the book of John, it's all about signs. You read the signs, you understand who Jesus is. So many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. I'm not a journalist. I am actually trying to trick you into reading the book so that you will understand I'm influencing your worldview. I'm taking the worldview that you thought you had, and I'm putting Jesus now in your worldview. So when did he start doing that? Well, let's look back and say, I'll ask you this question. You finish this sentence for me. If I asked you to put in the next word, in the beginning, God. That's the way they would read it. In the beginning, God. Every Jew knows that. Oh no. John says, in the beginning, God. That's right. He was with God and he was God. Well, how can you be with somebody and be that person at the same time? How do you do that? He's changing your worldview. He's saying that the person I'm talking about is God. But he's also independent of God. The very first line, he's pushing you in a direction, right? And then he says, he was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and the life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, like the song said. The darkness has not overtaken it or overpowered it, because all the darkness in a room cannot put out the light of a single candle. You can light one candle in a dark room, and the darkness has to flee, right? So he's saying that if there's light, there's life, and if there's light and life, that means there's no death and darkness. So get on board. This guy's taking us someplace. And then there was a man, and they talked about John, and then it just says this. In verse 14, it says that he was the Word became flesh and made his dwelling, or tabernacle, he made his tent with us. So he built the tabernacle, and he is the tabernacle, and the tabernacle was the center of the whole Jewish life. So anyway, I got to tell you, I'm so excited about this stuff. It's so rich. I'm telling you, there's people out there who know. I didn't know anything. I was 30 years old. I didn't know anything, but I was still arrogant. I didn't lose that. I was still. So we went to this little Baptist church in Southdale. And I said, gee, we got to go to church. I got to figure this stuff out. I don't know who Jesus is, what he did, or anything else. So we go there. We go there for a couple of weeks. The pastor notices us, because I never realized that when you're new, everybody notices you, right? I thought, how does he know I'm new? Well, we're the only guy that showed up new for the last year. But anyway, so we walk in. He says, oh, do you need a Bible study? I said, yeah, let's have a Bible study. We go to the Bible study for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I tell Jeannie, we got to go somewhere else. She said, what? I already know everything he knows. She said, he's been a missionary for 17 years in India. You do not know what he knows. But I couldn't get enough. I still can't get enough. I have to read, I have to read, I have to read. It's so fulfilling. After all these years, there's still so much rich heritage. All these genealogies, all these events that happen, why they happen, the symbols of them happening. They're so rich, they're so full. Those fill your life, you know. So then when you read it, you know there's a word called hyperlink. Hyperlink means, it's sort of like a technical term in a way, but when you read something and you click on it, it takes you back to something that was before. So that's what the Bible does all the time. Matthew has 124 quotations from the Old Testament. And people say, you know what? That was the law. We're under grace. We don't have to read the Old Testament. If you don't read the Old Testament, you're missing the whole richness of the Word of God. You know, because we have this much of Jesus in the Bible and this much without Jesus in the Bible. So we've got to figure out, what did he do when he came for 3 years that was so significant? Why does it matter? You have to go back and read. You have to go back and read. And sometimes you need help reading. I needed lots of help. So I started, I don't know, Derek Prince, if you know his stuff at all, but Derek Prince is just a wonderful teacher. Oh my gosh, he's passed away already. But he was a philosophy teacher at Cambridge University, right, when the Second World War was on. So he said, okay, you know what? Since I'm going, I should take a couple of books. And one of the books, the Bible with him. And in the middle of the night, he gets saved. In the middle of the night. And a week later, he gets filled with the Holy Spirit. All on his own, right? But he's such a brilliant teacher. Like, that's all he did all his life was teach. So he started all these English-speaking schools in Africa. He just went around teaching, and he's got a teaching called The Exchange at the Cross. The Exchange at the Cross. What Jesus did and what you got. There's so many good books and so much information out there. And it's not that you're going to read that instead of the Bible, but believe me, you just don't have the time to do all the research and everything else that everybody else has put in. You can build on, it's like saying, why don't you go out and build your own combine? Well, I don't know, someone else already built one. Why can't I take theirs, right? Yeah, that's what it's like. You're just jumping on their machine. They already built it. So you're just figuring out, okay, I'm going to use that for a while. Don't be afraid to jump onto other people's backs and figure out, well, what did you do that I need to do, right? How did you do this, and how did you do that? And you just absorb it in. And then you get better at listening, and you get better at figuring out how things all fit together, right? So just encourage you, just find something. I've read all kinds of people. One guy's your favorite guy for a month or 2 months, and they go, okay, I got to find something. And they lead you somewhere else. They'll mention, and now with YouTube, oh my gosh, there's so much out there. It's just amazing, the stuff that you can absorb. And I encourage you to do that. It's so fulfilling in doing that. And one of the things I learned when I was down there, I'll end with this. One of the things that I learned when we were down there is Jesus did not tell us to pray for the sick. Did you know that? No. What did he say? What did Jesus say? Heal the sick. He didn't say pray for the sick. He didn't say ask God. He said just heal them. Heal the sick. Silver and gold have I none, but what I have I give to you. In the name of Jesus, rise up and walk. Just you're healed. That's one of the things that I learned when I was down there, is people just saying, I'm healed. I'm healed. They would tell us just, you got a sore arm, touch your arm. I'm healed. Because you're doing what he said. You're be healed. Be healed to that arm, that shoulder, that neck, whatever it is. That's already, like the idea is it's already been done. Now there is in James it talks about call for the elders of the church to anoint them with oil and stuff like that, which is fine. But sometimes you're at home or you're here or there, and you just got to tell yourself you're healed. How strong is that? Well, okay, there's one more story, and then I got to go. This is how strong this is. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a doctor and a triathlete. He's in a triathlon, he's riding his bike. There's a guy in the corner signaling him it's okay to come ahead. And he ran into a Bronco going 55 miles an hour. Crushed his vertebrae. Send him home. They said, you've got to put in these rods in the back. And you're going to have to, you might never walk again. So he started thinking about it. He had a thought. This was a thought. The power that made me can heal me. Now, he didn't say God. He said, the power that made me can heal me. He sat down, laid down the first day, and imagined, because he's a medical doctor, he knew all the vertebrae, he imagined his vertebrae being healed. And then it lasted 15 minutes, and his mind wandered. The next day, laid down again. It lasted half an hour, then an hour, then 2 hours. And in 12 weeks, he was up running. Just on the power of the imagination. Well, there was a guy who was in the rail cars, and he jumped into a refrigerator car, and he accidentally the door locked, and they found him later frozen to death, but the refrigeration wasn't working. Imagination. Did you just watch the Olympics? Did you see all the athletes doing in their mind what they were going to do in real life? They imagined it, then they did it. You see the high jumpers, the pole vaulters. They see it before they do it. They see it before they do it. This is God's principle for us, right? What did he do to Abraham? 1,000 stars in the sky, all the sand. Gave him an image. Gave him an image. He saw it before it happened. And the world has taken this and run with it. This imagination. And imagining things that you want to have happen. Here's another example. You are now the coach of the team. And you have to pick a punt returner. And you have two guys, same abilities, same skills, everything, and you have to decide which one you're going to take. Now, here's the deal. You get to read their mind. So, the punter kicks the ball. The first guy stands up there. I'm going to score a touchdown. I'm going to score a touchdown. Which guy are you going to pick? The one who's talking about fumbling? Or the one who's talking about scoring a touchdown, right? So the words that you use indicate the actions you're going to take. You can't score a touchdown without the football. Believe me, I've tried. You can't do it. So I want to leave you with that. Image is important. Protect the image. It's a seed in the ground. What is God speaking to you? What are you supposed to do? Then, if it's supposed to be to witness to somebody that you know, talk to somebody about something. Maybe you're supposed to share the gospel. This is what I do. When I share the gospel, I tell myself this, I'm just practicing. I'm just practicing. If it doesn't work, God will work it out. But I'm going to practice. Hey, so how are you doing? How's it going? Having trouble with anything? Yeah? Well, have you ever thought about, is there anything I can help you with, Yeah, I'm having trouble with my back. I'm having trouble with my kids. Well, have you ever thought about this? Did you know I had that same thing happen to me? And I found that when I became a Christian, when I found out with Jesus, that he helped me through that situation. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about trying that? No, I would never try that. That is stupid or silly, whatever. Well, look, if you ever think about it and you change your mind, I'm happy to help you. I don't care if they say no. You know, God doesn't need me. I remember Jennifer one time, she was driving in St. Boniface, and she went over the bridge, and God told her, Jennifer, go back, that girl's going to jump. Can you believe that? So Jennifer went over the bridge and parked the car and got out and went back and said, can I help you at all? She said, yeah, it's bad. It's not going well. I know, I understand. I was like that too, believing there's a better way of getting this. And talk to her out of jumping. You never know when God might talk to you sometime when you're at a co-op or at a gas station or whatever. And the more, that's one thing I learned from down there. The more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you do it, the easier. It doesn't get easier by not doing it. It gets easier by doing it. Anyway, is anybody, if you have, I'm going to pray for you, and that's all really. Like I said, I have these 4 big points, but the way I'm talking, maybe 3. I'm just at this image, but this whole idea of identity and authority